and biomimicry training at Liquid Triangle Sustainability, who works to integrate humanity and nature through the built environment. She is working toward a biomimicry professional certificate and is collaborating to develop an emerging network of local biomimics called Biomimicry Chicago. Lindsay James is the Director of Strategic Sustainability for InterfaceFLOR, where she is responsible for strategically leveraging and expanding Interface's thought leadership and sustainability. She is passionate about the potential to harness our economic system to improve our natural systems.
Yes.
You absolutely know that.
Okay.
Everybody hear us? Be loud.
Wait, don't start our slide yet. We're the first ones. We gotta figure out blocking here.
Alright, give me a signal when you're ready.
This word. Sorry. How's this?
I'll just stand over here. We'll talk loud because passing the microphone back and forth would just be a bad idea. So I guess we're ready.
Alright.
All right. We are here to talk about biomimicry, which is learning from nature to inspire sustainable design. As Sarah mentioned, we are in a master's level program to study biomimicry, which is an interdisciplinary practice that recognizes that we are all designers, and we create the world we live in by the choices we make. And sometimes they have unintended consequences. We designed traffic jams by designing suburbs without viable public transportation. We created pollution by not using waste heat and particulates as a resource. But it doesn't have to be this way. There is hope. There are lessons that we can learn from the life around us. While we've been designing at a mass scale for over 200 years, life has not only survived, but thrived on this planet for over 3.8 billion years. We are a young species, and our evolutionary elders have much to teach us. And this is the heart of biomimicry, learning from the genius that surrounds us to design a more sustainable tomorrow. We are the success stories. We are the survivors. And these lessons will help us to survive as a species. So in practicing biomimicry, we're always asking questions. How would nature design?
So one question that we could ask is, how does nature achieve local reliance? A tree or a flower gets everything it needs to survive without having to actually pick up and move or import materials across the planet the way we do as humans. So what if we could say the same for our product manufacturing, or for how our food is farmed, or how we structure our communities?
How would nature create shelter as needed, either temporarily or permanently? In the case of a bird's nest, it's often used for one season, falls to the ground, biodegrades, and creates the building blocks to form new life and new structures. And nature invented the cradle-to-cradle ideal, where waste truly does equal food.
When we think about manufacturing, nature uses only clean processes to create materials. Spider silk, for example, is as strong as Kevlar or steel, yet it's made in a spider's stomach from digested flies at room temperature with water as a solvent. There are no toxic byproducts in nature's manufacturing.
What about waterproofing? If anybody works in buildings, you know that the waterproofing materials are toxic and they smell horrible. But a duck takes preening oil from its preening gland and combs it over its feathers. And then this oil, when it breaks down in sunlight, creates vitamins that make the duck healthier. So maybe our products could do the same thing.
And if we think about color, humans rely on pigmentation to create color in our materials, but nature uses more than one strategy to create color. For example, the brilliant blue color in the morpho butterfly's wings is created through the structure of the cells, and it's the shape that creates color through refraction of light wavelengths. The only pigment in this butterfly is brown. So biomimics around the world are creating exciting new products. For example, Qualcomm has a prototype e-reader that emulates structural color. And by harnessing wavelength refraction to create color displays, Qualcomm has reduced the battery requirements in e-readers by 25% and created a screen that can be read in bright sunlight.
How does nature keep itself clean? This is the lotus leaf, which grows in ponds, so it grows up through the mud and then harvests through photosynthesis sunlight on the surface of the water. But photosynthesis is hampered by dirt. So at the nanoscale, this lotus leaf is very rough, which allows the water to be taking the particulates with it and dropping down below. And so this is called the lotus effect, and Lotuson created a building exterior paint that looked to the lotus leaf to create, using nanoscale bumps, it allows the dirt and water to simply roll off the surface, keeping buildings clean without the energy, chemical, and water-intensive processes that usually occur. Green Shield is another one that is using the same process, the Lotus effect, for fabrics. So instead of using toxic chemicals to repel water and oil, it also uses the nanoscale bumps, but it adheres to them permanently to each fiber. So you don't have to worry about them being released into the environment, into human tissue, or they cannot become airborne.
I work for a carpet tile manufacturer, and we've been using biomimicry for years to guide our design. One of the first questions that our design teams asked was, what can we learn from the floors that we see, or what can we learn from the forest floor? And what they saw right away is that there are never two pieces that are identical in nature. No two leaves are identical, no two sticks are identical. So by emulating this random design, Interface was able to create the first random design carpet tile. And this has revolutionized the manufacturing mindset of having to create every widget that's exactly the same. It's dramatically reduced our manufacturing waste as well as installation waste for our clients. The examples that we've shared so far have looked at emulating nature's form, but there's more to biomimicry than just emulating form. There's also ethos as well as reconnect. And it's these three seeds together that distinguish biomimicry from just simple bioinspiration. So we can start by thinking about the ethos of biomimicry. And this is really the ethics of sustainability. It's not just copying nature's form, but emulating the deep patterns that we see in life. And one of the deep patterns that we see over and over again is that life creates conditions conducive to more life. And in the ethics of biomimicry, we should do the same with our designs. When we think about reconnecting with nature, this is all about quieting our cleverness so that we can learn from the wisdom that's embodied in the millions of species that we share the planet with. And it's redefining our relationship with nature so that we no longer look to nature just as a source of resources for extraction, but we look to nature as a mentor to guide us. So as Amy mentioned, every single one of us is a designer. Every single one of us can practice biomimicry. You can begin by going outside, quieting your cleverness, slowing down and listening, reconnecting to nature, and echoing what you hear.
And what will emerge when you do? Lindsay and I are working in collaboration with Janine Magnuson's organization, Biomimicry 3.8, to form a regional network called Biomimicry Chicago. So we encourage everyone who is interested to go to biomimicrychicago.net and help us bring some Chicago style to biomimicry.